Good day. Welcome to Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural. I'm Euphemia Pendleton. President Lincoln's second term begins as the Civil War still rages, but the Union has recovered from the early incompetence, cowardice, and abject fecklessness of some generals. Under Sherman, the Union's Southern campaign advances. Also, it's been 2 years now since the Emancipation Proclamation freed most of the enslaved, and that event continues to echo over the battlefield. So does the employment of colored Union troops, who make up about 10% of Union forces. Joining us now is Thaddeus Weathervane for pre-speech analysis.
Euphemia, Mr. Lincoln has to walk a fine line this afternoon, and he may not be as forceful as I might want, but the war does go on. He still needs broad support. With the deadly toll of this war in mind, he must make the case that dairy farmers in Wisconsin, that milliners in New York City, and that wheelwrights in Massachusetts should offer to risk their sons, brothers and fathers and themselves in this bloody battle. That case has to also enlist the gentle ladies of the North to fervently support his noble cause.
And we see that the President is now in place for his address.
Fellow countrymen, at this second appearing to take the oath of the presidential office, there is less occasion for an extended address than there was at the first. On the occasion corresponding to this 4 years ago, all thoughts were anxiously directed to an impending civil war. Both parties deprecated war, but one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive, and the other would accept war rather than let it perish. And the war came. 1/8 of the whole population were colored slaves, not distributed generally over the Union, but localized in the southern half part of it. These slaves constituted a peculiar and powerful interest. All knew that this interest was, somehow, the cause of the war. To strengthen, perpetuate, and extend this interest was the object for which the insurgents would rend the Union, even by war, while the government claimed no right to do more than to restrict the territorial enlargement of it. Neither party expected for the war the magnitude or the duration which it has already attained. Both read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any men should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces. But let us judge not, that we be not judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. If we shall suppose that American slavery is one of those offenses which, in the providence of God, must needs come, but which, having continued through his appointed time, he now wills to remove, and that he gives to both North and South this terrible war, as the woe due to those by whom the offense came, shall we discern therein any departure from those divine attributes which the believers in a living God always ascribe to him? Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet, if God wills that it continue until all the wealth piled by the bondman's 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with the world.
Quite thought-provoking, fascinating. Now we turn back to Thaddeus Weathervane for his analysis.
The overarching theme, it felt to me, was Lincoln's argument that he is dealing with ne'er-do-wells, dealing with scoundrels, that they are intent on a craven, dastardly project suffused with sin. His message urging Northern support is a message appealing to higher ideals, to what he has previously called the better angels of our nature, to continue fighting this evil. Now, a few details. Some Southerners refer to enslavement as their peculiar institution. In the address, Lincoln turns that word back on them, weaponizing it against them. He agrees with them and kind of says, yes, you're right, it is peculiar, but in a much more immoral, putrid way than you mean it. Also, considering that both North and South seem to pray to the same God to be on their side, Lincoln scoffs at the idea that a just God, a righteous God, would help the Southern slave owners in the, quote, wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces, end quote. Slaveholders putting God in that equation is confounding, distasteful, and on several levels. And Lincoln gets cheeky when he adds, essentially, hey, I'm not judging. Finally, he vows not to quit the war, not backing down. The 2.5 centuries of slavery in the United States is enough. God himself, Lincoln says, may deem it necessary that every drop of blood from the lash, that is, every drop of blood from the master's whip, should be paid by a drop of blood from the sword, from the soldier's gun or cannon. In other words, to be very clear, Lincoln says America brought this war on itself. He is saying the war is karma, straight up karma.
That did seem his implication. Karma. Not quite instant, but indeed. Very striking. Thus the war. Tragic and pitiable. Thad, thank you. That concludes our coverage of Lincoln's second inaugural. Good day, and elevate your game.